On Canvas, there is a slideshow with many posters and a page with links to listen to a number of songs. Please make sure you look at the posters and listen to the songs. I'm only going to talk about a few in this lecture. I'm going to start with the songs. Soldiers sang many kinds of songs in the trenches, or more commonly, while marching to and from the trenches. Among the songs would always have been music hall songs. These were the popular songs of the day, written by professional songwriters, sung by professional musicians, and released as sheet music so people could play them at home on their own pianos. Some of these songs were sentimental, like There's a Long, Long Trail a-Winding. Some of them were humorous, like Goodbye-Ye. Most of them were meant to act on soldiers and civilians in particular ways. A song like Pack Up Your Troubles in Your Old Kit Bag encouraged soldiers to keep smiling through the hardships. A song like We Don't Want to Lose You, But We Think You Ought to Go meant to encourage civilian men to enlist in the Army. Songs like Keep the Home Fires Burning meant to instruct women and others left behind on how best to support their husbands, sons, and brothers in the military. There were also songs that soldiers invented for themselves, like Hanging on the Old Barbed Wire. This sort of song was very good for marching to, but the higher-ups tended not to like songs such as this one, because it suggested that being in the Army was not a great experience for the ordinary enlisted man. This, of course, contradicted the official word that all soldiers were cheery lads. There were raunchy songs that talked about the attributes of local women, such as Mademoiselle from Armentières. This is a song that you can't find an authentic period recording of because the words were either suggestive or just plain dirty. But it was a popular enough song that bowdlerized versions were recorded and disseminated. I remember learning this song in elementary school, but with no suggestion that there was anything risque about it. And there were songs that, like folk songs, featured new lyrics placed atop well-known tunes. The song, When This Bloody War Is Over, is set to the tune of What a Friend We Have in Jesus, for instance, and We're Here Because We're Here uses the tune of Auld Lang Syne. We're Here Because We're Here demonstrates some of the salient characteristics of a soldier-centered song. It does not offer false cheerfulness or try to cover over the existential crisis of the ordinary soldier, and it does not attempt to explain the war as noble or meaningful. In fact, it suggests the opposite. As part of the commemoration of the centenary of the Great War, on July 1, 2016, 100 years after the beginning of the Battle of the Somme, the 1418 Commission sponsored an art project in which actors, dressed in period military uniforms, appeared in cities across Britain. They were silent as they stood in train stations or parks, or marched through the streets. If people asked them what they were doing, they would produce a slip of paper from their pocket with the name and military details of a soldier who had died on the first day of the Battle of the Somme. Periodically, they would come together and sing, We're Here Because We're Here, the only utterance they made all day. Music conveys emotions and allows for emotional sharing and processing by large groups of people in a way few other art forms do. The songs of the Great War allowed for soldiers' expressions of suffering, civilians' expressions of grief, and yes, even moments of lightness and hope in the midst of a terrible war. This poster features Lord Kitchener, whose name and likeness was attached to the volunteer army assembled in the early days of the war. This early poster is rather unsophisticated, but the compelling image of Kitchener pointing directly at the viewer did the job. Many men responded to this poster and enlisted. Of course, this is also the model of the Uncle Sam Wants You poster that Americans may be more familiar with. There are a number of posters depicting Germany or the Kaiser, the German king, as a terrifying beast. Many of these posters depict the ravening animal aggressively approaching the door of a house in which women and children cower. The usual message is that it is better to wipe out this King Kong overseas than allow him to come to your home. So, terrifying image occupying the center of the poster, large letters giving a directive, destroy this mad beast, and then, at the bottom, how one is to accomplish that by enlisting in the Army. This early recruiting poster shows civilians turning into soldiers. Let's look at the image for a minute. If you look at the right side of the poster, the end of the column of men, you will see men dressed in all kinds of ways: lawyers, farm workers, factory laborers, bankers. All of these different men turn into soldiers when they step into their place. The front part of the column of men features soldiers who cannot be distinguished from one another. The text encourages men to step into your place. That is, you already have a place in the Army and just need to step into it. Whatever you are doing now is not your place any longer. What effect do you think this image might have had on civilian men at the start of the war? This poster was issued just before the beginning of conscription, at a point in the war when everyone could see pretty clearly what the war was. In that light, the whole poster seems fanciful. The top text reads, "Forward," but everyone knew there was no forward movement in this war. It shows a soldier mounted on a galloping horse in an empty field with a sword in his hand. Based on what you know about the war so far, did an attack like this ever happen, even once, in the Great War? At the bottom, in small, shy type, the poster suggests that the next step is forward to victory and encourages viewers to enlist now. The poster, meant to be inspiring, just reiterates how little honor and glory were available for soldiers in this war. Women were often featured in World War I recruiting posters. They were used to shame men, as here, with the suggestion that the woman in the poster is braver and more desirous of glory than the man is. They were also often used to give permission to men to leave for the war, asserting that they could handle things at home and that the man of the house need not worry about them while he went off to war. And, of course, they were used symbolically to represent what the men were supposedly fighting for, whether that was real women at home or symbolic women representing the nation-state. The poster you see here is one of the most famous of the Great War posters. It means to shame men by suggesting that the most important question they would later be asked by their children is, "What did you do in the Great War, Daddy?" The man, holding his young daughter on his lap in a green armchair, has a look on his face that clearly says, "I don't have an answer to that question that my daughter will respect." And look on the floor at their feet. The little boy is marshaling his toy soldiers in a way that indicates he's more warlike than his business-suited father. The idea conveyed by the poster is simply that if you do not join the battle today, you will regret it later on. It uses shame to motivate men to enlist. As you look at the posters collected for you on canvas, pay attention to the different rhetorical strategies of the poster designers. Do they use the promise of adventure or fun or friendship? Do they appeal to patriotism? Do they use shame? How do posters designed to attract women to nursing or other war work differ from those designed to attract men to enlistment? What strategies are deployed in posters aimed at people on the home front? What kinds of behaviors do they seek to elicit, and how do they attempt this?